Revolution
Radio. The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and FreedomSlips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, FreedomSlips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Hello and welcome back today from Make the Shiny Side Out on Revolution Radio. That's right, Revolution.radio in fact, which is pretty cool, all good. We are going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff, but do remember this is Listener from the Radio, so if you can donate, please do. If you can't, that's okay, maybe you can tell people about stuff. And this stuff would specifically be the show and the radio station, of course. So if you can do that, that would be fantastic. This is show number 620, 20 and 600. That's a lot of shows over a lot of years, talking about a lot of stuff and sort of culminating, if you will, in, well, the hypothesis. Because the thing is this, for me, this has always been a vehicle to communicate the hypothesis. That's been my intention. And the hypothesis is an alternative cosmology, all right? It is an alternative way of trying to explain reality, or what we perceive as reality. Our lives, what we live in, the universe, etc., etc. Why are we here? Where are we going? What does it all mean? Okay, and it's not all made up. Not really. It is though an amalgamation of years and years of research and deep thought and life experiences, both Dave's and mine, as well as research done by many other people, both mainstream and otherwise, and essentially, I was always, from as far back as I can remember, really, I always it didn't sit right, it didn't feel right, I didn't feel comfortable with the narrative in many ways. I was looking for something more, right? I was looking for explanations, a deeper understanding. When I was 8, my mother, bless her heart, got me a book from a book club. She was a member of the Deutsche Bücherbund, which really meant a German book federation, if you want. So every month you would get a book. You can order one, or they sent you one. That they recommend for you to read. But she would always order something that she wanted to read, and every month something would come. And then when I was 8, she allowed me to order a book that I was interested in. It happened to be Charles Berlit's Mysteries of Forgotten Worlds. It was either that one or Charles Berlit's The Bermuda Triangle. I think it was Charles Berlit's The Bermuda Triangle. I think that's the one I got, because I was fascinated with a place that was so strange and mysterious and so evocative and thought-provoking for an 8-year-old. Come on, right? I mean, the Bermuda Triangle, things are disappearing there. What? When I read the blurb, I thought, well, this is fascinating stuff. Anyway, so off I went and read that book, and then I read all of other Charles Berlit's books, and then I started reading von Däniken, and I started reading everybody else.
Von Däniken was my entry.
It just happens then. Yeah. And what he said, though, right, it made perfect sense to me. Because he looked at the Bible, for example, right? And he looked at the descriptions that people were giving of things, right? Like prophets that were taken, like Ezekiel, taken up into the sky, right? Mm-hmm. Burning bushes, etc. And then, other things like 10 plagues and the walls of Jericho, which were brought down with trumpets, sonic weapons, as it were, or Sodom and Gomorrah. In fact, I wrote a little science fiction story based on Sodom and Gomorrah, which I didn't publish, but you can find it on my WordPress page if you're interested. But Mackie69, that's it. WordPress, Mackie69.com. MECCI 69. Now, but it made a lot of sense to at least question these things. because Joseph Blumrich, who was a NASA engineer, looked at the descriptions that Ezekiel gave of what he saw, wheels within wheels, and eyes all around, etc., etc. And he put his engineering mind to work and actually designed a shuttlecraft, more or less, with rotors all around. It was looked like a silo with 4 landing pods and rotary blades for propulsion. And anyway, he built it, and then he got a patent for it as well. Joseph Blumrich, purely based on the description that Ezekiel gave. Ezekiel also talked about what the Earth looked like from space.
That's right.
The land looked like porridge, the water looked like.
Yep.
Yeah.
The rivers, the clouds.
And if you looked at it, with a fairly, I don't want to say primitive mind, but someone that isn't familiar with machinery, etc., or whatever, right? Like we are today, but like a rural person. And if you look at his descriptions, you go, yeah, that's pretty much on the money, right? It's pretty much on the money.
He did also describe.
And that just deepened my interest, and it never.
He did also describe being on what we would today think was a spaceship. That the walls were like that's blinking lights, and the roof was, like the nighttime sky, right? So it must have been clear or something. And that he was shown all these different places around the solar system and other galaxies. He didn't know what he was saying, but when you read it today, that's what it kind of means, right, to us.
Yeah. And he didn't have a technical upbringing, obviously, as Dave has said. And he also never came back. There's like he went on one of those trips and he didn't come back.
That's right.
Ezekiel, that is, didn't come back. Now, so that sort of, but then you start going down all the rabbit holes, right? And initially I had no interest at all in anything metaphysical. I was just, it bored me to tears. The Tree of Life, and Kabbalah, and all that stuff. Yeah, sure, whatever. I was interested in Atlantis and the Bermuda Triangle, which I linked in my mind. And
yes.
I still believe there's a linkage to ancient civilization. And then Bigfoot was interesting, Yeti, etc. UFOs was interesting as well. There's a whole bunch of stuff that I was quite happy to look at and be interested in. Other stuff I was not, and then over the years, of course, that changed. But what struck me was that from an early age, I found it interesting that we had this developmental progression that everybody talked about. We started here, and then we went through some stages, and then we get to the top. We're now at the top of our development as a civilization. We've done, over the last 10,000 years, here we are. But then I thought, but Atlantis seems to have been really developed. And then I realized that other people talked about other ancient cultures, like Lemuria and Mu and others before that, and also ones whose names have now been lost to time, of course. And then I wondered, though, as well, why did these ancient civilizations end? Why were they destroyed? Why? And I wanted to find out why. And then I realized, well, maybe they were destroyed on purpose. I couldn't figure out why, though. Why would they be destroyed on purpose? Why would anyone want to destroy these civilizations? Maybe it was a cycle, because it looked like a cycle. These ancient civilizations that existed as highly developed as ours, in different ways, mind you, but as highly developed. Because you can't explain away the monuments that still exist. They're there, physically there. You can't. It's there. You look at them and you ask yourself, how did they do it? But that's the wrong question. Because they did it. How they did it is completely irrelevant. They did it, right? The question that we need to ask ourselves is, why did they do it? Okay? And why did they do it in this way, specifically, right? The how, well, that becomes easy then once you get the why, because maybe it's because that was easy for them. It's just how they worked. It's just what they did, right? And it's also been clear that there must have been a civilization that spanned the globe, maybe several before this time. And then I realized how old is the human race? How old is the human race? When I grew up, the human Homo sapiens sapiens was said to be 100,000 years old.
That's right. That was the top.
100,000 years. Right? And Neanderthal was our ancestor.
Okay. Yeah, we came from.
No one
them.
was talking about
That's
Denisova, no Homo forensis.
No.
Yeah, didn't exist. Okay, I thought, okay, that's interesting. 100,000 years. So I worked on the 100,000 years. And I thought to myself, okay, and this is where it sort of, I remind you, I was in my early teenage years here. I was maybe 13, 14, 15. And I was reasoning this way. Well, okay, so it took us 10,000 years to get from Stone Age, let's say, right, hunter-gatherers, to where we are.
Yep.
10,000 years. Okay. Then I thought to myself, well, why didn't we do it? What would have stopped us doing it earlier, or several times? Because
we could have done it. We could have fit 10 of those. We could fit 10 of those into the 100,000. That's right. Fit
10 in, right? Yeah. But even if you say, oh, you know what, it didn't take 10,000 to 20,000 years, I thought at least 5 other civilizations could have come along. And as human beings, the way we are, I don't think has changed fundamentally. I'm talking about our psychology. Okay? And we want to, we're curious. We are really curious. We can't help ourselves. We have to know. That's why we go and explore. We explore and we try to find new things. We're also territorial. We're warlike. We're constantly fighting with one another. But that pushes our invention as well. So we are always striving for more. Right? We're striving for better. We're striving for something. And it's always pushing us towards greater and greater achievements in the physical world. It does, right? You can stand on your head and say it isn't so, but it is. And not every group of humans does or feels this way, right? Necessarily, but by and large, this is what humans do. That they invent stuff and they question stuff and they go further and they want to know more. And I mean, why did we go to the moon? What possible use could that be to anyone? And the answer is, at the time, it was of no use to anyone. Okay, so you can do it. So what? Now we've been to the moon. There's nothing we can do on the moon. Okay, but we've been there. Oh, hurrah! Because we can't help ourselves. Why would we set sail into an inhospitable and hostile, dangerous ocean when we're perfectly happy in the city we're in? I got a house. I got a roof. I got a family. Here I am. But no. No, I'm going to set sail into the unknown. Why? Because that's who we are. And I find it astounding that for 90,000 years we sat on our hands. They're not interested. Yeah, we go here, we go there. But we don't have to develop anything. We don't think any new ideas up. Okay? Oh yeah, there's a wheel, and then there's fire, and there's a whole bunch of stuff. But now we realize, when we look at the world around us, there are ancient monuments that have ruts of wheels in the stone, in completely uninhabited regions of the world today. So how old are these? We don't know, but it looks like that this path was traversed many times, and maybe it was mud where these grooves were made, and they were since returned to stone. Who knows? We don't know. I don't know. That's the point. We don't know. We talk about the sunken lands, because at the end of the last ice age, the flooding was catastrophic. We lost 100 meters of land, 100 meters vertically, right? Yeah. Gone. Sunderland and Doggerland and all these, the coastlines of all the continents, right? All gone. And that was just the latest. And then I started reading about other cultures as well. And again, Berlitz mentioned Mysteries of Forgotten Worlds. And the Maya said, oh no, there have been 4 worlds prior to this one.
That's right.
The last one was destroyed by water.
And they knew about the destruction and what caused it. That's important to remember.
The Hindus. It is. And the Hindus believe the same thing. There's many word cycles came before us. The Egyptians, when they hosted Solon, a distant ancestor of Plato's, who then recounted the story of Solon in his dialogues of Critias and Timaeus, then he would say to the Egyptians, "Oh, what's all this then?" And he goes, "Okay." He goes, "Oh, you know about the flood?" He goes to the Egyptians, "Yeah, we know about the flood. We know about the flood, sure. But you are like children, you Greeks. And Solon goes, well, what do you mean? Well, you remember one flood when there have been so many. There have been so many, right? And you dig further and you look deeper into history, and you look at the fairy tales and the stories, the mythologies, and all the things that are being described, like a voice-activated door in a fairy tale, open sesame, flying carpets, okay, 7-league boots you strap on, you can move 7 leagues, which is 7 miles of thereabouts, in one stride, and all these other fantastic things. Right, that clearly it's a fairy tale. It's children's stuff. Now, and some of these things we still can't do. Of course, we haven't got flying carpets. We got other flying machines. But I mean, honestly, there's really nothing that would stop us to make the carpet fly. I mean, we could do it. There's no point to it, but we could do it. Okay. Other things that we can't do at the moment, right? Like the 7-league boots we don't have, but maybe we have boots that allow us to fly. Yes, we do. We do have that. And you look at other things that are now common. In fact, so common we don't even think about it, like voice-activated anything. We have that. We've got better. We've got proximity-activated doors. What? Like in Star Trek.
They just see you. They see you coming in open. That's right.
There were 2 people. Yeah, that's exactly right. We have that now. Long distance communications, crystal balls that let you see anywhere in the world. We got television sets. All of those things in fairy tales, that we go, oh, that's what a crazy thing that is. Not all of it, but a lot of it we now have.
So Meki, we can see stuff on our phone that isn't live. It happened whenever ago. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Even
Just
more
think about
amazing.
that concept. That's crazy concept to someone who's never seen that.
Yeah.
How can you look back in time?
So now, I know, and so I kept going. Well, I mean, so what is the? I mean, this is so. I mean, mentioning like a teenage young boy, and wanting to change the world maybe in his own mind, never really having been able to belong to anything. And that was probably my advantage. I don't know about Dave, but I never belonged to anyone. My dad was Turkish, mom was German. I grew up in Germany, I was born in Germany. Didn't become German until I was like 5 or 6 by declaration, because just because you're born in Germany doesn't mean you're German. Mm-hmm. So I became German. I didn't know that until I was much older. And my name was Turkish, which didn't help me at all. And I was an outsider. But for the Turks, and there were only a couple of them really in my school, I wasn't Turkish enough because mom was German. My Turkish was really very good, still isn't. So I was never really part of anything. My grandfather was a free thinker. He had been sent to the front and lost his arm in Breslau in 1944. He was in his 40s, and he was only sent there because a neighbor denounced him, and so they sent him to the Eastern Front because that's what they do, right? Yeah. He came back though. He survived. And then I learned.
I thought the joke was going to be you couldn't
Jewish
find
ancestry in my tree somewhere, from the Ukraine. Yeah, I know, right? And my dad, Turkish, as I said, but his ancestors had been living in Bulgaria and in Bosnia prior to World War One. And then after World War One, of course, and the collapse of the Ottoman Empire, they went back to live in Turkey. And I learned that my names aren't what they are either.
Oh,
so there was my mother's name was not the name that was changed. Then I found out what it was. Okay, it's that. And then I learned my father's. And my father told me, "Oh, that's not our name." My father or his father changed it when they came back to Turkey from this to that. And I learned it was Ivars Olu. Now Ivars happens to be the demon that Aleister Crowley communed with, which I found very odd. Because my family's name would have been that when Crowley was around as well. So I don't know if there's a connection or it's just funny. Really. Ivars Olu means child of Ivars. That's what it means. And my other side of the family, their name was Rosanka rather than Rosna. Rosanka, which led me to the Ukrainian connection. So the point I'm making is I never really belonged anywhere. And I was educated in all of the religions at the time. So I went to a Protestant class, Catholic class in Germany, blah, blah, blah. I never really belonged anywhere. The first time I felt like I belonged was when I came to Australia, because it didn't matter where you came from here. It didn't matter. It could be anywhere so what? Right? In fact, the funny thing is, when I came to Australia, they called me Nazi because I came from Germany.
Of course.
And I had been suffering racist slurs all my life from Nazis in Germany. But the point is here, it gives me a unique perspective on everything. And so I looked at everything and I thought, well, why would civilizations destroy themselves, right? And over years and years, and also talking with Dave at a later stage of my life, maybe they were destroyed deliberately, right? Maybe that's just what has to happen. But then the question becomes, why? Why does it have to happen? And how real is this reality? And then enters quantum physics as well, of course. All of a sudden, everything is uncertain. We're living in a world of probabilities. There's no certainty in this world. It's all probabilities. And you go, okay, what does that mean? And then I looked at reincarnation and all that. I mean, what does that? And it looks like. And then I started thinking about the world as a prison matrix as well, but a very sophisticated one, which is even, not just this world, but all our multidimensional parallels as well, because it appeared that reincarnation really was a thing. Okay, virtually all of the religions had some form of belief in reincarnation. All of them. Not just Hinduism, not just Buddhism, not just Taoism, no, Christianity had it.
Except for the West.
As well. Yeah, Judaism had it. So reincarnation is actually a thing, or a shared experience, and then we found the research. There's this research of reincarnation. So it seemed to be a thing. So we are born again and again into this world. Now a lot of people say, oh, it's so we can learn our lessons. You know what? I don't think so. And why? Why don't I think so? Now, in order to learn a lesson, you have to remember it. Mm-hmm. Okay. If you don't remember what you did wrong before, okay, then where's the learning? Where's the learning? You just throw it into the same maelstrom that you had before. Into the blender. Here you go. You learn anything? Yes. Well, forget it now. Boom, new blender.
Yeah. What did you learn? I learned
that's what happens to most of us.
I learned it's bad being in the blender.
Yeah. That's it. Don't be in the blender. No, but so let's see. You live even a good life. You go and learn a few things, and be good to people, treat them nice, and then you die, and then you're born again. But you've got no memory of any of your past lives, right? And that's why people go, what a load of nonsense that is. Reincarnation is nonsense because I can't remember it. Except that some people do. Mm-hmm. Some people do remember it, and they remember really strange details. I mean, it's the evidence is almost overwhelming. There was a scientist, she went into it to debunk it all. Said, oh, reincarnation, what a load of crock. And then when she did the research and actually got into it and did the experiments, the hypnosis, the sessions with the patients, she goes, you know what? It's a thing. It's a thing. It's a thing. We have no way of understanding the mechanism at this point. We just don't. We don't know. But it seems to be a thing. And if it's a thing, then this whole learning, on the reincarnation, you learn, you get better or whatever, is a complete nonsense because we don't learn anything. And if we don't become better, really, even individually, we don't. So why then? Well, the memory is wiped, so we don't remember it. And we think it's all new and fresh. And that's part of the mechanism to keep us here, to have us not focus on our escape. Now, some of the knowledge has been handed down through the generations, through the millennia. The pineal gland and its importance. The possibility to escape this cycle of rebirth, which is something that is preached by many of the non-Abrahamic religions. Detachment, having nothing to tie you down to this place, being able to live very simple, modest lives, etc., etc. Something that Jesus, by the way, was preaching as well. So you have this. Okay, then you go. Okay, well, right. So we have these civilizations. They seem to be destroyed, or they are destroyed on a maybe fairly regular basis, maybe every 15, 20,000 years. Who knows, right? And we ourselves don't remember anything. So we don't remember those civilizations and our achievements there. Because, look, to be honest, if something came along now and wiped us out, and it took us 10,000 years or more to get back to a level of civilization, most of the stuff that we had here would be completely forgotten. Some stories would survive, some fairy tales, some monuments. In fact, all the monuments we can't explain today will probably survive. like the temple in Baalbek and others. And then they look at Mount Rushmore and go, oh, these must be some kind of gods or high priests or something, right? Completely failing to understand.
The pyramids will still be there.
Yeah, quite likely. Right? So there you are then, right? And you go, well, okay, so we our civilizations seem to be destroyed. Some remember it. Aboriginals remember it because they've been around a long time, and I think they haven't changed terribly much. But people always say, "Oh, well, if that's true, make your house that we have these primitive people there then, or how could they coexist with such a high civilization?" And then I say, that's exactly what we have today. We have very high levels of technological achievement in the world, and we've got people that live very, very simply. I don't want to say primitively because that's the wrong term, but they live very simple lives that don't have much technology. Some people choose to live like their ancestors lived, 6, 7, 8,000 years ago. Yeah? It still happens today. Another thing that bothered me was this whole evolution of the human species. And this is sort of another branch of the hypothesis, because I don't think that the human race is 300 now. We say now it's 300,000 years. It'll push further back into the past, I guarantee it. Right? So from 100,000 we're going to 300,000 years now. But I think it's much, much older than that. And there's a lot of research that was done on this in this field as well, by Cremo, for example. If you haven't read his books, please do. And others say the same thing. The Hindus, again, in India, they say, well, yeah, of course we've been here for millions of years. There's nothing new. You're not telling me anything new. Okay? There's a whole bunch of people that already believe this anyway. And we find artifacts that are so weird and so strange, like gold chains and coal and other objects like or pottery or iron pots in stratas of the earth where they shouldn't be, because it makes them hundreds of millions of years old. And then people say, no, it's all nonsense because the human race is only this old and there's no other evidence for anything. Look, over those kind of time frames, there wouldn't be any evidence other than really strange things like an iron pot in coal. Nothing much else would survive.
That's right.
Over millions of years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's be very clear on this. And I'm not saying that we're all the same exact human race, because I think there have been alterations in between. There have been interventions, if you want to call it that as well, I think, that changed us. And then you ask yourself, well, if that's true, then, why do we find these fossils of Homo erectus and this and that? And I said, well, because they existed as well. It's just like today. We coexist with gorillas and orangutans and chimpanzees, which are fairly closely related to us. I mean, a chimpanzee is like 97%.
And
us.
There is a...
Right?
There's
a very closely related
hominid species, Mickey, that are called... I think they just hug each other. They pair up really, really young and they stay paired like birds. And I think that's the same island that the fellow decided to go visit, the YouTuber, and he was killed as he got close. Killed by them. And the Indian...
The Sentinel Islands.
Yeah, they don't want anyone to go near it. So they exist at the same time as us, and they've got bows and arrows, and we've got spaceships, right?
Exactly. That's exactly right. So there will always be discrepancy. I mean, look at the cargo cults, like when the Americans came to the Pacific Islands, right? Mm-hmm. Which were less developed than, let's say, the West, whatever, or the Japanese for that matter. And they saw planes landing and bringing stuff and going again, and then they didn't come back. And so they built these airports and effigies out of wood and whatever to represent planes, hoping to bring back those. Bring back those crazy people from the sky, and their canned meat and whatever else, chocolate, right?
He could make flame. He could make flame at will. He smokes, that means he breathed fire.
Yeah.
Right? And he had a leather fur-lined... They've never seen a creature that had fur. Right? On these islands. Yeah. So he had a fur-lined jacket. It's like, wow, what are you made of? Look at you, right? Fly boy. with his sunglasses.
Flat white. That's, but it's, that's exactly right.
It was a P-51
so you
that
have,
landed.
even in recent history.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right. Even in recent history, we have examples of what could have happened, right, in the past. It's right here.
That's right.
It's there. We gave it a name. Cargo cults. Hello.
And the Dogon tribe, Mickey.
Yeah. Yes. Which retain knowledge of fairly obscure astronomical points and data.
Right. Yep.
So that's another really strange one. And then people say, what about evolution? Fair point. Okay, let's say evolution is a thing, right? I mean, it's still a theory, don't mind you, but let's say it's a thing. And in fact, I believe it's punctuated equilibrium.
That's right.
Meaning it's not gradual, but it rather is abrupt in developmental stages. But that's neither here nor there. But okay, so people say, "Oh, what about evolution?" Okay, right. I said to them, "Okay, how old do you think sharks are?" Well, we think it's about 400 or 500 million years, let's say, right? That's about how old sharks are. Same with crocodiles, 300-400 million, something like that. And they have been sharks and crocodiles for that time.
Yep.
For all of that time, they were sharks and crocodiles. That they weren't pigeons or palm trees. They were sharks and crocodiles. Yes, they were different in size. Sure, they were different in size, but they were still sharks and crocodiles.
And that depends on their size.
And why can't we be like that?
Their size depends on their
once a species, in my mind, once a species. Oh yeah, it's environmental mostly, absolutely.
That's right.
But why can't we be like that? I mean, if a species, and this is what I believe, okay, if a species has reached optimum configuration, right? Again, this is survival of the fittest, not survival of the smartest, or survival of the biggest, or survival of the strongest. No, it's survival of the fittest, and I completely agree with it. Survival of the organism that is most fit to live in that environment. That's pretty much what it is, right? That's what it says. And I agree with it. I think it's a very, 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 very insightful and very, very good way of looking at development that way. And sometimes the survival of the lucky, right? Could also be the case. But we why? What other parameters do you need to change with us, right? To make us more adaptable? Because we already are weak physically. Our teeth aren't strong enough to tear people apart. In fact, a chimpanzee would take on 3 or 4 men, fully grown men, and win. Okay, that's about the strength ratio when it comes to the great apes and us. So we can't win that way. But it wasn't necessary because we had other things. We had our smarts, technology, right? That's right, planes.
That's right. What a great segue.
We had a whole bunch of stuff. That's it. We had a whole bunch of stuff that we could rely on to give us the edge, right? And so I say to people, well, I don't see why we couldn't have been around for millions of years at all. I don't see the problem with that at all. Okay, and probably in more variety than we have today. I think what we have today is a fairly homogeneous human race. I think there were configurations of us that were much bigger. I think there were configurations of us that were much smaller. They had different colors. They might have been slightly differently configured when it came to maybe the number of fingers, number of teeth, who knows, color of hair, who knows. But we are where we are today. Okay. We are where we are today. So that was one thing. Okay, so if we are that old, then where's the evidence? And the evidence abounds all around us. Then let's go a little into space now, right? There's a planet missing in our solar system.
That's right.
There's a formula which pretty much puts each planet into the position where it should be. There's a couple of exceptions, and the asteroid belt is the biggest of those. Where the asteroid belt is, there should be a planet, okay, but there isn't. Why not? Well, we don't know. Now, I submit here it's because there was a planet, but then it was blown up. Okay, in a space war, maybe. Right? I don't know, but it was there and it was destroyed. My opinion. Okay, my opinion. And I think Mars suffered a similar fate. Have you looked at Mars and Phobos and Deimos, for that matter? These are really male-formed moons. Okay. And if you look at Mars, it looks like someone ripped into the side of Mars.
That's right.
I mean, ripped into it. And our own Earth looks like it's been ripped into, except we can't see it because we got the water to cover it, the Pacific Ocean.
Well, the
Pacific Ocean is massive.
Sumerians knew about Tiamat and the collision with Earth, and
Yes.
NASA's agreed with that story.
I'll think about that for a second.
Yeah.
So there's evidence that we might have been spacefaring in the past. I mean, again, in Hindu mythology, they talk about Vimanas, flying chariots, and they describe them quite intricately. This is what they do. This is how they operate. There's a couple of things we don't understand anymore, right? Some of the fuel we don't understand. The Chinese have the same thing, flying chariots. All the gods had them. And not only that, they also had elixirs of immortality, and each immortal had his own or her own elixir of immortality.
And then we have
Each of them.
the pharaohs that were being cooked manna.
Yeah. And before that, you had the king list of
That's
the Sumerians and Babylonians, where these beings ruled for 26,000, 25,000, 10,000 years. Oh, no, that was a translation error. It's not meant to be. Yeah, they got that wrong. Well, maybe they didn't get it wrong.
Yeah, I lean on that side of it.
Okay?
Yeah.
And look, this is really trying to make you understand what the hypothesis is actually saying. And what it is saying, really, after everything is said and done, is that we are here, maybe against our will, right? But certainly in a place where we don't belong, and we're kept here, I think. And by the way, this is Bode's law, B-O-D-E, the planetary law. And we are kept here, and we are reincarnated into this place over and over and over again, right? And it also seems that, again, these civilizations seem to end at some point. Okay? And I think they're ending for various reasons. And one of the key reasons is to keep us here and to stop us from achieving critical mass, to enter into something we like to call the awareness cascade, but you can call it the ascension, or you can call it rapture. I don't care what you call it. It's an event, I think, that we would undergo as a species once we reach a certain number and we have a certain vibrational frequency. That sounds... See, I would never have said this 20 years ago. Never. What a lot of crock I would have said. But vibrational frequency. Well, smoking too much happy weed, huh? But I've learned a lot since then. And we can't separate our physical from our spiritual. Can't do it. Can't separate from who you are to how you feel. Can't do it. It's you. All of it is you. The way you feel, how afraid you are, how happy you are, how much self-confidence you have, your understanding of anything really. There is no separating you from yourself, because you're all the one. And that's I know we talked about this recently, Dave. Paranormal, supernatural. I think these are all completely wrong terms. There is no paranormal. There is no supernatural. There is normal and natural. That's all there is.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't acknowledge it. We don't. I mean, the funny thing is, for a lot of indigenous people, they don't call these things supernatural or paranormal. They just call it. That's just life. That just happens. This is just what we do, right? The spirit walking, and the skinwalkers, and the shape shifting, and the magic, and the things that can't be explained, and the UFOs, right? And all the strange things, including Sasquatch and portals and whatnot, right? And people disappearing. They don't. In fact, they don't even have a desire to investigate it, because sometimes they say these things aren't good for you and you shouldn't poke them. Don't poke them. Why are you poking them? You're stupid.
Yeah. And
right?
for
whereas other things that we consider bad,
for places like the Black Hill, Mickey, the Aboriginals just say, you know what? It's just a place you don't go. Just don't go there. Because in their observations of the world that they
don't you want to know what there is? What? No.
In the world that they see, these are just the things that happened. But us, we have to name it, we've got to put a team onto it to try and find out what it is, and then we go, oh, that's a bit too hard. Well, let's just call it supernatural. Yeah, okay. And then we don't have to look into it anymore. Placebo, Mickey. I'm just going to throw that out.
Oh, okay. That's right. So, that's I love that. It's a placebo effect. Yeah, don't you think you should look at that? That's the one you should look at. Not finding new medicines, but look at what happens with the placebo effect, buddy. Come on, seriously. Oh no, it's psychosomatic. Of course it is. That's the whole point. And psychosomatic means really what it means is that the mind seems to have some kind of influence over your body.
That's
what?
Right. And you got better
That's crazy.
For no reason whatsoever, according to science. Mm-hmm.
According to science. Science, yes, the new altar we worship on and cover up our embarrassingly ignorant attitudes toward everything. But yeah, so that's where we are though, right? And you see these mysteries unfolding all around you, and it's more so now. There seems to be an appetite for it, maybe, right? And all these things are coming to the surface, and we seem to have this really bubbling interest. At the same time, we have unprecedented levels of apathy. Unprecedented levels of apathy.
Who cares?
What do I mean by that? Well, all of these things are happening all around us, right? Exactly, who cares? But we've been so conditioned now over the last, I want to say 50, 60 years, a couple of generations now, right? That it just our attention span is very low, and we have bought in completely into the official explanations of everything. We are hanging on the words of the experts, right? And we just don't seem interested. There's some people are, don't get me wrong, but the vast majority of people, they're just sleepwalking through the day. Truly, sleepwalking through the day. We had disclosure. Yes, these objects are real. They're not Venus, and they're not swamp gas. They're something, and we don't know what they are, but they're real. That is disclosure. That's the government saying, yes, these things that you like to call UFOs, we now call them UAPs because it sounds better, are real. They are a thing. And then radio silence, right? Okay, so then what? And there are a lot of people that are producing a lot of good work in the research documentary space, trying to document these things, trying to investigate them, trying to shine a light, right? Which is hard. It's like, it's like, let's say chimpanzees, trying to determine the nature of us, let's say, right? And they see this electrified fence around a scrapyard. Now they see there's a whole bunch of stuff in that scrapyard. It's stuff funny shaped, and some of it smells funny and makes funny sounds and whatnot. But every time they touch the fence, they get this electric shock. Something they can't quite understand. What is it? Something is pushing me back. It must be magical, right? And maybe these chimpanzees think, oh, it's just some kind of magical barrier which you can't get across. And we're a bit like that. Our science and technology isn't far enough advanced to really poke into these mysteries and come up with meaningful results. I'm put in mind of things that are happening on Skinwalker Ranch, where these experiments are being conducted, which I think are fantastic, by the way. I'm not deriding this at all. I think it's a fantastic effort that's being undertaken there. But we don't have the technical know-how, and I don't think we even have the intellectual capacity at this point to understand fully what it is we're dealing with, right? Because we have to let go of too many concepts, I think, in order to make sense of it. Because right now we're trapped in 4 dimensions, 3 spatial and 1 time dimension, right? Completely trapped in it. It is absolutely and undoubtedly clear that the phenomena we are studying are not at all trapped like that. Not at all, right? And again, right? I mean, what is it all about? Why are we here? What's going on? That's again with quantum physics. It was all about the why, and then came along quantum decoherence. Well, we're here to make sure that this reality exists. We observe it. therefore it's here. But why? I mean, the question becomes is, why is that important? And I don't know. I haven't got the answer to that. But it is clear to me, at least, that this must be one of the key reasons we're here, to make sure that this reality and its multidimensional counterparts exist. That's the reason for this. And maybe it is a prison. I don't know. And again, scale. Scale is a problem that human beings have always had. And I want to just spend a couple moments on scale, Dave. So people look out into the world and they see, I don't know, let's say you live in a valley, and it's all flat. Or you may be on the ocean, it's all flat. It's completely flat. It looks flat. You could put a ruler to the horizon and it'd be flat. You'd be right, it's flat, 100%. It's because you don't understand the scale of the thing. Okay? It's very, very, very big. Okay? And small spaces, because what you look at is very small, will appear straight and flat. Because it's very, very, very big. So this is the same. If we're living in a multidimensional prison, right, where we're, maybe even, from our point of view, saying words like infinity and eternity, we can say those words all day long. Infinity, infinity, eternity, eternity. They're completely meaningless because we have not the capacity to understand it. Explain infinity, explain eternity. You can't.
Well,
it's not a long time. And infinity is not very, very big either. It's infinite.
Let me say one thing, that according to physics, there are 3 different infinities, and each is used in a different way. And I think that's hilarious. And if you were to add up all the prime numbers, sorry, not prime numbers, all of the whole numbers from 0 to infinity, the equation is a minus 1/12. And that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But that's the answer.
Of course not. Yeah. Because we're trying to describe something we can't comprehend.
No, it's very, very big. In fact, so monumentally large, Mickey, that you can't even imagine how large it is.
No, that's correct. No, there's this story that came out of the Orient, about eternity. So a man wanted to know, well, how long is eternity? Okay, and this ancient wise man told him, okay, there's this mountain. It's 10 miles high, and it's made completely out of diamond. Okay, and every year this bird flies to this mountain. And it sharpens its beak on this mountain every year, and then it flies back to wherever it belongs. When the mountain has been worn down by this bird from the sharpening, right, 1 second of eternity has passed.
Wow.
Right now, it's again, it's a nice illustration, but completely meaningless because, of course, it doesn't even. I mean, you can capture the essence, I guess, right? But we still don't fully understand it. It's eternity is forever. Again, another meaningless word. and again, infinity. Well, infinity is never ending. If something is infinite, it doesn't have an end. Okay? And again, these are things we don't understand. I do believe, however, that it can be understood. It can't be understood by us necessarily, but it can be understood by someone who has got a higher level of understanding, a higher level of intellect, a higher level of whatever, of faculty, right? Which I think we have, just not in our present physical incarnation. I think of us as physical shadows, or 3-dimensional, 4-dimensional shadows of a higher dimensional being. Because if you're gonna, let's say you're walking in the street, it's a sunny day, you see your shadow. There it is. It's your shadow, right? There, you can see it. And if you spread your arms and your legs, it resembles you in outline. Now, the thing is this: there's very little. So someone comes along and sees your shadow, doesn't see you, but only sees your shadow, right? This person goes, okay, what can I say about this being? Well, they've got 2 appendages, it seems. They're sort of elongated. They've got some 2 leg-like structures. They seem to have a head and a body. But that's all they can say. There's no depth to it. There's nothing. It's just it's just your shadow, which is really just your body blocking the sun. But that's the only thing this person can see. They can't deduct anything about you, your intellectual capacity, your likes, your dislikes, your civilization, what you're wearing, your favorite meal, nothing. And that's how I think we are. We are these four-dimensional shadows in this reality of a higher dimensional being. And we have nowhere near the capacity that we would have in reality in our higher dimensional existence, like a shadow. A shadow doesn't have any agency. A shadow goes wherever we go. It doesn't have any free will of its own, except unless you're Peter Pan, that's different, right? But there's no shadow existence. The shadow just follows whatever you do. Maybe the shadow thinks it does the things it does because it wants it to. I don't know. Maybe it does. Maybe the shadow thinks, oh yeah, I'm my own person. I'll do whatever I want. Okay? And forever will it be the slaves of our movements. Maybe we are the same in a higher dimensional context. And again, we've got no way of conceiving of that. If you live in flatland, in a two-dimensional world, okay, and you can't conceive of the third dimension. You just can't. You can't. So what do? To you, anything that happens in the third dimension is a complete mystery. And the third dimension, which is invisible to you, these things just pop up. Oh, something popped up and then they disappear. And then it popped up again and then disappeared over here. You've got no way to understand the third dimension if you're a two-dimensional being. None. Zero. Right? You can see the effects of it. You can. Right? You can experience it, or at least the effects that are happening in your two-dimensional world, how they affect your two-dimensional world. But you don't understand what's going on. That's exactly what we're seeing here on our planet. There's a whole bunch of stuff that happens. We go, how? This can't happen. Why does this happen? How could it happen? Because we don't see the full picture. There's 96% or 97% of the universe are missing, Dave. 97%.
I lost the decimal place.
97. I mean, really? Come on. 97% of the universe is missing.
It's only because the equation they set out because they believed that what they would see would be true, but the problem is it was their expectation about what they thought they should see. So they wrote an equation to match that, and that's why most of it's gone. It doesn't exist. So
that's exactly right.
And this is we've once again put what we think onto something rather than observationally worked it out. Yeah.
Correct. We come up with ideas and theories and hypotheses, and then we try to make reality fit those. And when it doesn't fit, we get variables. We put variables in. That's
did Einstein in
here to cover all the stuff I don't know. You don't know 96% of the stuff. Yeah, it's a big variable. It's a big variable. I find it
plus or minus 96. That's hilarious.
So it's okay if I do like plus or minus 96% of my test. Would that be okay? It's good enough for the universe. Good enough for me. Not really, right? So we
hashtag double slit experiment, and then mic drop. That's it.
Yeah, and we have now come to a point where we are questioning causality. We're questioning the nature of the universe, and we can't explain it at all. And look, the double slit experiment again. I know we talk about it a lot, but it's really, really important. And I know our schools don't teach it right. It's a mystery of the highest order, if we accept the universe as we try to explain it, right? Mm-hmm. It doesn't make it. It shouldn't do what it does. It shouldn't, but it does. So it's not the way we think it is. And entanglement shouldn't be a thing either. It shouldn't, but it is. It is. And we have all of these strange things that shouldn't be, but they are. You can stand on your head. They still happen, right? And most people don't like to talk about it. And that's okay. But this is what the hypothesis is really trying to offer. A cosmology that, while we can't explain everything, tries to make sense out of all of it. Not just the accepted science, but everything we encounter in our lives, right? Even the crazy things, right? Or that we consider crazy, or the things we call paranormal, supernatural, right? We shouldn't, but we do. And I get it. That's okay. right? But bear also in mind that we've been steered away from certain endeavors. People experience ridicule if they go into certain fields and say certain things and study certain things. Why is that? Because if you don't toe the line and you're scratching on the surface of this reality, you might bring it crumbling down. You might bring it down. You might. I don't know. Maybe you could. Right? I know we're running out of time, but look, today was just about really making everybody understand why we even bother with the hypothesis. I mean, why don't we just talk about fun stuff every week? Right? Why does it all have to have a meaning? Why do we have to have something that builds up on, to build something else?
You and your meanings.
New meanings. To offer a cosmology to all of you that aren't happy with the ones that we have. And our cosmology, if you want to call it that, there's music, is quite inclusive. There's a lot of stuff we can explain.
Wow, there's the end of another David Mackey's Shiny Side Out. We'll catch you Tuesday and Thursday morning at 7 a.m. of all times, Eastern, with breakfast at Plato's Cave. Until then, stay safe, everyone.